Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of On the Cutting Table with K&K Logo Designs. And this week we are actually going to be doing a variation of the Star of Hope. It's going to look similar to the block we did last week, but last week we only used 5 fabrics in the block, and this week we're going to use 6 fabrics. So then you can kind of see what it looks like with using 6 fabrics. And we will be cutting the same amount of squares, but we'll just be cutting it from 6 fabrics instead of 5. So this week I have all of my fabric right here. We will be using my Home of the Brave fabric. This will be my corners, and here's last week's block too. This will be end up being my corners of my block. I have the USA Boots and the USA Cream. This will end up being my middle, and you can tell that it's the opposite of my first block. So I'm using the coordinating fabrics and just switching the colors. And then I have my navy and my red fabric with my stars on, and those will end up being here in my block. So these will be part of the half square triangles. And then I called it my states material. It's got the United States with the American flag on it. It's got an eagle, and it has 1776, brave, united, liberty, free, lots of sayings all over it, and it's almost like a vintage looking fabric. It's got the cream colored background with cream, blue, and red on it too. So for the block that I'm doing, again, this is Star of Hope, but we're using 6 fabrics instead of 5 this week. So I needed 4 3.5-inch squares for our corners, and then I needed 2 of each. So I needed 2 squares that were 3 7/8 of my blue boots, and then I needed 2 squares that were 3 7/8 of my cream USA Freedom, 2 4 1/4-inch squares of my solid navy, 2 4 1/4-inch squares of my red fabric with my my cream stars on it, and then I needed 4 squares that measure 3 7/8 with my, I don't know, Patriotic Fun Liberty fabric here. So once you have them all cut, you're going to line up. What I ended up lining up were my first half square triangles, which were going to be these 4 fabrics. So I took my 3 7/8 fabrics and my 4 1/4 fabrics. So I placed them right sides together, and I used my quick quarter quilter's ruler. Again, we draw on the sides of it our solid lines, and then we draw the dashed line in the middle. So when you have them lined up, you will have 4 blocks together. The red and the navy will have right sides together, and the boots and the cream will be right sides together. When you have them right sides together, go on the lighter side of the fabric and use your quick quarter quilter's ruler and draw your solid lines and your dashed lines. After that, you're going to sew on the solid lines. and then we are going to cut on the dashed line. After you cut on the dashed line, we're going to iron them open. And this is what your half square triangles should look like. Notice how we have the little flags on them. We are going to cut them off. And then we'll have our half square triangle squares. So the original fabric that measured 4 1/4, it would have been my red with cream stars and my solid navy. I'm going to add that 3 7/8 of my Patriotic Country with Words fabric. And so I'll take this fabric and I will lay it on top. And then I'm gonna draw my line opposite of the seam that's already there. So here's a picture. Kind of showing you how I'm putting it together. And this, again, you'll draw your solid lines, sew on the solid lines, and then we'll cut it on the dashed line. It up, and then we're going to iron it, and this is the square you're going to end up getting. Once you have all of those ironed, you're going to cut the little flags or little tails off of them. After we cut those, we have all of our pieces for our block put together. So we're going to start to lay out our block. Now, when you lay out the block, change things around a little bit. I'm gonna show you, I had 3 different styles that I could have, 3 different ways I could have put the block together. So I had 3 different ways or 3 different variations I could have put this block together, and this is what I ended up going with. So once you have your block laid out how you want it, you are going to start sewing your rows together. So you're gonna take that corner fabric that all we did was cut squares out of this, the 4 3.5 inch squares, and you're gonna sew that to our squares that have 3 fabrics for your row 1. And then your second row will start off with a 3 fabric square, and then you'll add in our middle fabrics. So once you have all the rows sewn together, you are going to sew row 1 to row 2, row 2 to row 3, and row 3 to row 4, and you will have your final block. And this ended up being my final block for my second Star of Hope. And you can see the difference here. I had a lot more cream in this one, so I got a lot more reds incorporated into my second block. They are busy, but I will be putting borders around mine, so that'll calm down this Quilt of Valor a little bit. So in block A, we use the same fabric for our corner squares and in the 3 triangles in this square. So these were the same, and we ended up changing it, so I was able to add another color. So this will be your second Star of Hope with 6 fabrics instead of 5 that we did the first week. If you completed either of these blocks or Stars of Hope, please put it on our Facebook page so we can enter you in our drawings for some free stuff. And that's what's on the cutting table at K&K Logo Designs.